Welcome to another video session. This is Unit 1, Junction Diode. So, this Unit 1, we first study the junction diode characteristics and some different types of diodes. And in Part B, so Unit 1, we will have Part A and Part B. So, in Part A, we will study the junction diode characteristics and we will look at some few different types of diodes. In the Part B, we will look into the applications, some of the applications of this diode. So in this video session, we will be looking into what an open circuited PN junction, the PN junction, how it can be used as a rectifier, the VI characteristics of the PN junction diode, the effect of temperature. We will also look into the diode resistance, diffusion capacitance, diode switching times, and few types of diodes, that is the tunnel diode, photo diode, LED, etc. So let's get started. So when a p-type semiconductor and an n-type semiconductor are joined together, we get a junction. So that is a PN junction. So in a p-type material, we call P to say it is positively charged because there are excess holes in that type, and so we call the hole as a positively charged ion, and the they are called this ion are called as the acceptor ions because the hole indicates a loss of or absence of electron, so it can accept an electron. Similarly, the n type, we have excess electrons, so we call this as the donor ions because they have, in this case, one electron in excess. Okay, so the PN junction will be formed when the p-type and n-type semiconductor are joined. So we are looking at the semiconductor material of p-type and n-type, which is of size, let's say here it is 0.5 centimeter. So here we can see the junction, and near the junction there are no charge carriers, or there are no free. So here we can see there are holes present, here there are electrons present, but around the junction there are no free charge carriers. So this region around the junction, we call it as a space charge region, whose width is around 0.5 micrometers. So you can imagine the size of that. So it is around 0.5 micrometers. And we can see the charge density around this region. This is the junction. So the charge density will vary as the distance from the junction. So from the junction, the side we have the positively charged, and here we have the negatively charged region. So the space charge region will have the charge density rho, and the distribution of the charge density will vary around the junction. So which can be denoted by the Poisson's equation d square v by dx square. So that is the voltage will vary, which will be equal to minus rho by epsilon. where epsilon is equal to epsilon naught into epsilon r. That's the permittivity. And the the charge density or the space charge density rho depends upon the doping concentration, doping level also. If they are heavily doped, then it will be different, and when it is lightly doped, it will be different. So the space charge region, or it is also called the transition region, or it is also called the depletion region, because there are no free charge carriers. It is deplete of free charge carriers. That is why it is called as a depletion region. Deplete means they are not present. It is depleted means it's emptied. So the free charges charge or the free charge carriers are emptied here. So that is why it is called as a depletion region. So its thickness is around 0.5 micrometer. And if you differentiate, if you integrate this Poisson's equation once, we get epsilon, which is the field intensity, which is minus dV by dx, which is nothing but the integral of rho by epsilon dx. So this is E and this is epsilon. So E is the electric field intensity. So we see that the electric field intensity is 0 at x equals x naught. So that is this distance at x equals x naught. So at 0, the field is maximum. So this is the distribution of, or the electric field intensity around the junction. So the electrostatic potential around the junction will have a distribution like this. So again, if you integrate the electric field intensity E, then we get the potential V, potential difference V, that is equal to minus integral E dx. So for the P side, the voltage will be 0 near to the junction, the end of the junction on the P side, and as we proceed towards the junction and towards the end region, the potential will rise. So similarly, we can see for the N side also. So as we vary from the distance of the, as we vary from the uh, junction, so we can see the rise in the potential for the N side. So for this reason, the free charges on the N side will not be able to cross over, as we can see that there is a higher potential, so which will stop the charges from moving from this side to the P side. Similarly, this junction barrier or the potential will stop the free charges that are on the P side to move into the N side. So this is what we will see. So thereby, because of this barrier, so there will be no further, this will act as a barrier, and it will not allow any further movement of holes from P side to N side, or the movement of electrons from N side to P side. So this is what is an open circuited junction. So what do we mean by open circuited junction? When we have not applied any voltage across the junction. So what we have seen in an open circuited PN junction is that under open circuit condition, the net hole current must be 0, and a very large hole diffusion current tends to flow across the junction from N to from the PN material. That is from P to N material. The electric field must build up across the junction. The whole drift current tends to flow from the N to P side to counterbalance the diffusion current. So now we see that there are two kinds of current. One is the diffusion current and the other one is the drift current. So diffusion current here is diffusion is a process of movement of charges from the highly concentrated area to a less concentrated area, and drift is because of the field that exists. So because of the electric field, the charges get drifted. So that we call it as the drift current. So in a semiconductor, we expect two types of currents, diffusion current as well as the drift current. So when a PN junction is open circuited, there is an equilibrium condition. So this equilibrium condition allows to calculate the height of the potential barrier. So this is what we have considered about the junction diode when it is forward biased. Now how we can use this PN junction as a rectifier. So as we can see that the diode permits the flow of charge in only one direction, but it does not allow in the other direction. So therefore, this ensures that we can make use this junction diode as a rectifier. So when we do a reverse bias, what is the reverse bias? So when the positive of the battery is applied to the N type and negative of the battery is applied to the P type, then we say it is reverse biased. If the positive of the battery is applied to the P type and negative of the battery is applied to the N type, then we say it is a forward bias. So when we apply the reverse bias, the space charge spreads deeper into the P and N regions. So this is the P and N type material with reverse bias. So here the negative of the battery, the external supply, is applied to the P type and positive is applied to the N type. So in this case, there is a reverse saturation current that will flow. That is very small value. So that is represented as I naught. So why it's called saturated? Because it will be very small and it will not be able to contribute much. So it will be very small current because of the charges are saturated at both the sides. So they will not be able to move much. Next, if we consider the forward bias, then the current across the junction will be more. So that means there will be a large charges that will be flowing across the junction. So therefore, we call that as a forward bias. So in the forward bias, the diode acts as a switch, a closed switch. So this is the forward bias. So when we apply the positive to the P type and negative to the N type, then we say that the junction is forward biased, and we see that there is a large current that will flow, and we have the ohmic contacts for the diodes. So they are basically some metal contacts that are not the semiconductor metals. So, but there will be some difference. Mm, So this ohmic contacts does not create another junction between this metal and the semiconductor type. So that is what we call it as a ohmic contact. So that is a that losses are very negligible as compared to the action of this semiconductor. So therefore, those are very negligible. So they will not form any junctions there. Okay, now let us look into the actual VI characteristics, that is the voltage and current characteristics of the junction diode. So junction, when the PN junction is forward biased, we see that the current varies and it rises in an exponential manner. But the voltage across the junction or the diode is very small, whereas or it almost becomes constant. The voltage becomes approximately constant, and the current goes on increasing. This is for the forward bias. So this is the voltage along the x-axis and current I along the y-axis. So when we apply the reverse bias, so there is a very small amount of current. It is very negligible. It's a very small amount of current that flows. Now what values will it be? So let us take an example of a germanium diode and understand that. So here the current is shown in milliamperes, and in the reverse bias region it is shown as the microamperes. So that means the forward current is 1,000 times more than the reverse current, the reverse saturation current. So we see that the current does not increase instantly at zero. So as we vary the voltage across the diode up to some 1 volt, the 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 current does not flow, or current is almost zero, and at point 1 and so beyond point 1 the current goes on increasing, but the voltage is very small, or the voltage remains approximately constant. So for a germanium diode, the so this the point where the diode starts conducting and starts allowing current to rise, so that point we call it as the knee voltage. So that value of voltage we call it as a knee voltage. So for a germanium diode it is around zero point 0.3 volts, and for a silicon diode it is about 0.7 volts. So if you want the diode, I mean, how do we choose between a silicon diode and a germanium diode? So if you want the uh, knee voltage to be more, then we go for the silicon diode. That means it should not immediately, it should not switch on for all the wrong voltages. So having the higher voltage, that is the 0.7 volts, will be of greater advantage. So the current is given by uh, the instantaneous current I is given by I naught, which is the reverse saturation current, into e to the power of V by eta times Vt minus 1. Here, I naught is the reverse saturation current and V is the applied voltage. Eta is the dependent upon the material. So it is equal to 1 for germanium and 2 for silicon. And Vt is the voltage equivalent of the temperature, and it is given by T into 11,600. So where T is the temperature in degree Kelvin, and Vt will be equal to 0.026. And if you take the room temperature at T equals 300 degree Kelvin, then V will be equal to 26 millivolts. So that means the applied voltage should be at least 26 millivolts for the diode to work. All right. So during forward bias, the applied voltage is far greater than this VT voltage, that is around 26 millivolts. And the current I is in milliamperes, and it is given by I is equal to I naught into e to the power of eta times Vt. I mean V by eta times Vt. So you can ignore this minus 1 because it will be very large. The current will be large in the forward bias. During the reverse bias, the current will be approximately equal to I naught. So this term will be eliminated. So because it will be in terms of microamperes. In terms of a silicon diode, it will be again much smaller in the reverse bias. It will be in terms of some nanoamperes. So if you go on increasing the reverse voltage beyond some point, so there will be a reverse breakdown, so which is not accepted. So we should operate the diode such that the diode does not go into the reverse breakdown region. So once the reverse breakdown occurs, that will be destroying the diode. Okay, so as I mentioned, the voltage at which the current starts increasing in the forward bias, we call that as a cut-in voltage or the knee voltage or the offset voltage or the breakpoint. It is also called the threshold voltage. So there are different names for that. So this is shown for the germanium and silicon diodes. So it is approximately 3 volts for germanium and 7 volts for silicon. Though here it is shown as 0.2 and 0.6. In general, for practical purposes, we take the V gamma, that is the cut-in voltage for a germanium diode, as 0.3 volts and 0.7 volts for silicon. So the VI characteristics depends upon the temperature because of the reverse saturation current I naught. So I naught, because in the VI characteristics we have seen that the current, there is the current, whether in the forward direction or whether in the forward bias region or in the reverse bias region, the current flowing depends upon the I naught, that is the reverse saturation current, and reverse saturation current is dependent upon the temperature. So that is, for every degree rise in temperature, the current increases by 8 to 10%. So on an average, it will be a 10% increase for every degree rise in temperature. So therefore, because of this variation, the current will vary. So the diode resistance R is equal to V by I. So we can look at the graph and plot that. So when we take the instantaneous resistance, we call as the dynamic resistance. So which is given by R is equal to 1 by G, and that is approximately equal to eta times Vt by I. The diode can be simplified, or we can use the piecewise linear diode characteristics for the large signal approximation, in which case we say that below the V gamma or the knee voltage there is zero current, and after V gamma there is a slow rise in the, there is a rise in the current and the slope of that rise of the current is 1 by Rf, where Rf is the resistance in the forward bias. Okay, so there the as we can see from the characteristics of the diode, so we see that the charges are built up around the junction. So therefore, it acts as a capacitance. So there are charges stored around the junction. So we call that as a, so we can see the effect of capacitance in that. So let us look into the diffusion capacitance CD. It is the rate of change of injected charge with voltage. So CD by definition is equal to dq by dV, and which we can write it as tau into di by dV, which we can write it in terms of the the conductance G, and therefore the diode current is assumed due to holes only. Then the total diffusion current, the total diffusion capacitance will be the diffusion capacitance on the P side plus the diffusion capacitance on the, the diffusion capacitance of the holes plus the diffusion capacitance of the electrons, that is CDP plus CDN. The forward bias, when we have forward bias, then the diffusion capacitance will be far, far greater than the transition capacitance, CT. And in the reverse bias, the transition capacitance will be far, far greater than the diffusion capacitance. So what we have to understand is that there are two types of capacitance, the diffusion capacitance and transition capacitance. Transition capacitance is predominant when the diode is reverse bias, and diffusion capacitance is predominant when the diode is forward bias. So when it is forward bias, the capacitance is made of this injected charge carriers. So the injected charges that have crossed the junction. RCD is the time constant of the diode, which is represented by tau. And this time constant is the mean lifetime of the minority carriers. So this is a very important parameter which will be used to calculate the time, the on time and off time of this diode. So C dash D is the dynamic diffusion capacitance for any arbitrary input, and just like the diffusion capacitance, we can also compute the dynamic diffusion capacitance. And for a sinusoidal input, the C dash D, that is the dynamic diffusion capacitance, will be C dash D is equal to half into Rg when omega R is far, far less than 1, and it will be R by 2 omega whole power half into G if omega tau is far, far greater than 1. Next, the junction diode switching times. So we take the diode and apply an input voltage Vi and observe the different time instants. So if this is the voltage that is applied across the diode, so we see that there is a, from 0 there is a sudden rise up to Vf. So this is the forward voltage, and at instant t1 the voltage at the input falls down to minus VR, and it is constant, and a steady state is achieved. So this is the built up. So the excess charges that have crossed over the junction, so is represented in this graph here. And after the voltage has reversed from the forward bias to the reverse bias, then the charge density goes on decreasing. You see that the charge does not, though the voltage has immediately fallen down from positive to negative, the charge does not immediately become zero. It takes some time for the charges to flow back and become zero. So therefore, this time is a very crucial time for. So that means to say here from the for in we have seen that when the diode is the forward bias condition, there is a large current that is flowing, and when the diode is acting as a closed switch because current is present, so it acts as a closed switch. When the diode goes into the reverse bias condition, there is zero current approximately for practical purposes, ignoring the reverse saturation current. So it acts as an open switch. The current does not flow means it acts as an open switch. So the diode acts as a forward, or the closed switch in the forward bias, and it acts as an open switch in the reverse bias. So there should be current, and immediately there should not be current flow when it is gone into the reverse bias. But the charges don't become zero immediately, so that means they still continue to flow, and but then they die down. The excess charges are taking time to become zero to cross back the junction. So this is the charge density. Next, we can see that the current when when it is forward biased, the current is given by Vf by RL, where RL is the load resistance, and the current when it is reverse biased is given by minus IR, which is equal to minus VR by RL. And after the charges have crossed back because of the reverse bias, then only the current slowly starts becoming zero and reaches the I naught. So there is a surge in the current. So there is the current does not immediately become zero. So it takes some time for the charge carriers to flow back as a result of change in the bias condition. And this is the diode voltage. So you know that, as I said, when the diode is forward biased, the voltage is around 0.3 volts for germanium and zero point 0.7 volts for silicon. So the voltage is very small in the forward bias. When it becomes reverse bias, the voltage is reducing until the charge carriers have flown back. The charges which have crossed the junction have flown back. Until then, the voltage is reducing slowly to zero, and then when the current slowly becomes to zero, then only the voltage tends to increase and go to this reverse voltage, whatever we have applied, minus VR. So there is a transition time. So we can divide this timing into three parts. So this is the forward bias time T1. 0 to T1 is the time for the forward bias, and T1 to T2 is the time, we call it as the minority charge, minority carrier storage time. So we call this as Ts, and the time when the voltage reaches the reverse bias voltage. This is the voltage across the diode. The voltage across the diode, the time taken by the time taken to reach the voltage Vr across the diode, we call that as a transition interval Tr. Okay, so these are the different times that we have to identify. So when we identify this time, it will help us to understand how quickly or how slowly the diode switches on and off from the conduction to the non-conducting state. So those are the important things we have discussed about the junction diode. Next, let us look into the breakdown diodes. So as we had discussed, uh, when we apply the reverse bias voltage, the reverse voltage, then there can be breakdown. So that means when we increase the voltage beyond some point, the diode will go into a breakdown, and there will be very sharp rise in the current, and that can damage. So that current is the reverse current which can damage the diode. So in a diode you can expect two types of breakdown. One is called the avalanche breakdown, and the other one is the Zener breakdown. Avalanche breakdown occurs when both the p and n types are lightly doped, and we apply a very large voltage, and because of this voltage, as we because of this large voltage, the there is a breakdown. So such a breakdown we call it as the avalanche. So that means because of the application of this large voltage, this uh, large voltage makes the enables the charge carriers, I mean charges, to break their covalent bonds, and where thereby they become free and contribute to the current. So that we call it as the that process we call it as the avalanche multiplication process. So the breakdown that occurs in a lightly doped diodes is called as an avalanche breakdown. And of course, both these breakdowns does not destroy the diode. And and when you take a heavily doped diode, then uh, for a very small voltage, there will be a breakdown, and such a breakdown we call it as a Zener breakdown. So we can control the breakdown at a very small voltage level itself. So that we call it as a Zener breakdown. So we can get a breakdown for very small voltage. So when the voltage breaks down, I mean when the diode acts as a breakdown, in the reverse bias region, then the voltage is approximately constant. So therefore, these diodes, the breakdown diodes, especially the Zener diode, is used as a stabilizer. That means it gives a constant voltage when there is the when there is a change in the uh, when there is slight variations in the voltage. So as we can see from here, so this is the breakdown. So this is the breakdown we call, and this is the breakdown in the uh, diode. So this is the Zener breakdown. So this is a symbol of the Zener diode, and the Zener diode is always used in the reverse bias condition. So as we know, this arrow head uh, points the direction. I mean, denotes the p type or the p side, and this side indicates the n side. So here we see that the negative is connected to the p type, so therefore it is in the reverse bias condition. So when the voltage varies or there is slight variation in the uh, load resistance also, this diode does the reverse breakdown. Because of the reverse breakdown process, so there is a current that flows and maintains a constant output at the RL. So the current varies in the diode as well as in the uh, RL, that is the load resistance, so that a constant voltage is maintained at the output. So this is the output here. So this we call it as a stabilizer. So that will stabilize. You will get a, uh, mm, mm, I mean, we call it more as a the regulator. It will regulate. It will control and give you a constant output. So the next type of, so this is one type of diode we have seen, that is a breakdown diodes. The next type of diode we are looking at is the tunnel diode. So the tunnel diode exhibits a special property called the negative resistance property. All right. So this we call as a negative resistance because the slope is negative here. That is why it is called as a negative resistance. So as we increase the voltage, the forward voltage, there is a sharp increase in the current and up to some point, and then that point is called the valley point. And after the valley point is reached, sorry, the peak voltage, the peak point, and this is the valley point. So after the peak point is reached, and when we continue to increase the forward voltage, the current slowly starts decreasing and falling down up to some value called the IV, that is the valley current. So after the valley current is reached, any further increase in the voltage increases the current again in the forward direction, and therefore, so the tunnel diode is operated in this region between the peak voltage and the valley voltage. So peak voltage is less than the valley voltage. So here we can use it as a negative resistance. So this is like this is having the this is this we can use it as an on state and an off state. So you can use it as a fast switching high speed switch. So when you can use this diode and not going into the reverse condition. So the problem when we are talking of a junction diode is if you want to make the junction diode work as a simple switch, you have to go into the forward bias region, then you should go to the reverse bias region, and we saw just now that all this minority charge storage time and all those time will contribute for the delay in switching, whereas in the tunnel diode there is no such uh, drawback. So therefore tunnel diode will be used for high speed switch operation, and it is used as a high frequency oscillator. So this switching in the in the forward bias condition enables this tunnel diode to be used as a high speed switch and high frequency oscillator. So these are the typical values for the tunnel diode parameters: IP by IV and VP in terms of volts, and the valley voltage, the forward voltage. It is all given here. So this tunnel effect is observed in uh, germanium, silicon, and the gallium arsenide. So these are the different tunnel diode. Okay, so the tunnel diode symbol is shown here. So the diode tunnel make it, so this is the symbol shown here where the Z marks for a Zener diode, this will observe as a Z, but for a tunnel diode it is observed as a T symbol. Okay, and the equivalent, the small signal model in the negative resistance region is shown here. So it is basically a RLC circuit, that is some sort of resonance circuit. Next, type of diode is the photodiode. So the photodiode is sensitive to the light. So the light radiation is made to fall on the junction by using some clear plastic that will allow to focus the incident radiation onto the junction. And the diode is always used in the reverse bias condition. So we can see that the p type is connected to the negative of the battery and n type is connected to the positive of the battery. So therefore the photodiode is always used in the reverse condition, reverse bias condition. And the current in the photodiode is given by I is equal to Is plus I naught into 1 minus e to the power of V by eta times Vt. Okay, so Is is the dark current that will flow when you have not applied any voltage. So this is the dark current, and as we vary the intensity of light, so we can see that the current slowly increases and approximately becomes constant. So as we increase the intensity of the light, so the current also increases. So this is what we can observe from the graph, the VI characteristics of this photodiode. If you observe the sensitivity of this photodiode, it is very sensitive near the junction, and the sensitivity decreases as we go away from the junction. So we should when we uh, project the light, it should be falling more on the junction than away from the junction. It is used in many applications. And next is the LED. LED is the light emitting diode, and here the energy is released when an electron falls from the conduction band to the valence band, and this is what is used in the LED. So the efficiency increases with the injected current and decreases with temperature. So the light is concentrated near the junction, as most of the carriers are to be found within the diffusion length of the junction. So in this uh, topics, in this video, we had seen the open circuited PN junction, the rectifier, how you can use a PN junction as a rectifier. We looked into the VI characteristics, and we saw how it is dependent on temperature. We looked into some of the concepts such as diffusion capacitance, diode switching times. We also looked into different types of diodes. In the next session, we will look into the applications of the diode. Thank you.